January marks a year since gruesome videos of bodies being burnt in Mozambique attracted widespread condemnation. But to date, no more is known, with only Red Cross responding. Now, the videotape showed at least one soldier in the burning incident, which allegedly occurred in November 2022, wearing the easily identifiable camouflage work uniform of the SA National Defense Force. The Southern African Development Community military in Mozambique was largely blamed for the event, and Namibian President Hague Geingob, in his capacity as the then chair of the SADC organ on politics, defense and security, said on the 12th of January last year, investigations were instituted with results once again completed to be shared. However, since there has been no statement by the regional bloc on the incident, and meanwhile, the Southern African Regional Office of the International Committee of the Red Cross said there is a need to ensure international humanitarian law is understood and the rights of civilians protected. Protection of the most vulnerable people understood to include bodies affected by armed conflict is a central goal. Now, to discuss this further, we are joined by Kobus Marais, that's a Democratic Alliance Shadow Minister for Defense and Military Veterans. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers.
All right, now, 1 year down the line, the SADC and South African Defense hasn't given answers to the video being brought that's burnt by alleged South African Defense Forces. Now, your reaction on this very loud silence regarding the investigations?
Well, yes, it's quite a long time, and we are aware that a board of inquiry has been instituted. Also, one from the South African defense side to determine the involvement of South African soldiers. And then obviously they are under the jurisdiction of SADC. So the investigation and everything must be done by SADC, and then it must be filtered down to the member states. The one thing that we know is the video clips that I have seen, that we have seen, that was appalling and that was despicable and that was clearly in violation of human rights laws and the UN Geneva Convention. That depicted quite a number of soldiers. And remember, our soldiers, South African soldiers, do not operate on their own, but they are in a formation of what they call SAMM, which is the SADC countries. Now, the videos that we have seen and that was appalling and that was alarming depicted one South African soldier, Special Forces soldier, who was taking the video. And it was clearly not a soldier with a South African uniform that was throwing the bodies onto this bonfire. So obviously, we know that we are involved in some sense, in some instance, but it was very important that there must be a proper investigation, an independent investigation, to determine to what extent our soldiers was involved in the activities, and to what extent we were involved in not bring it to the fore and telling people, being the whistleblower for that. So yes, it is unacceptable. It is quite long, but for this instance, we have to look to SADC and say, what have you done? Yes, we have submitted questions in the past. Feedback was that they are busy and in the process of looking at the evidence and determination, but that was referred back to SADC again.
Now, in your opinion, why is it important for the SADC and the South African Defense to be held accountable for this alleged violation of humanitarian law?
Well, we know what can happen if law, defense forces, armies are taking things into their own hands, and they are transgressing and violating international laws and conventions on human rights, and how to treat your adversaries once they are captured as prisoners of law, or even the deceased, the dead bodies. And for us, being a judicial state and a democracy, it is very important that even the soldiers under the most severe circumstances must comply with the international laws, because next time it might happen to our own soldiers that they are treated that way, their bodies being mutilated and thrown onto fires in a disrespectful way. And then obviously we must be able to protect that. So the laws must apply in all cases, so that we don't find ourselves on the front pages of international newspapers, on television shows, and that we are complying with international laws, which has been written for a specific purpose, and that is to prevent that there are inhumane ways of our soldiers, prisoners of war, and the deceased are treated. So we have to stay with that, and we have to support that in all its ways and regulations.
All right, now what measures do you suggest should be put in place to ensure that such incidents do not occur in the future? And how can accountability and respect for humanitarian law be also reinforced?
It's obviously very important that once soldiers are deployed into a war zone, or into a zone where there's a lot of conflict and a lot of atrocities taking place, because one must remember that the adversaries in this case, the insurgents, they are very cruel and they are beheading people. So soldiers being deployed for a very long time into this hostile environment can act against inhumane people, treating civilians in an inhumane way, doing the same. But it is very important that they must be trained and must be educated on how to act and behave in circumstances like that. Now, you need a disciplined defense force and deployed soldiers, but more importantly, in my opinion, are their superiors and their leadership. Now, it is the leadership within the bases, within the defense forces of the different SADC countries, but also those who are deployed with them on patrol, to make sure that everybody complies with those requirements and regulations and international laws. So you have to look at leadership, and there must be accountability, irrespective of who it is, whether it's a general, whether it's a corporal or a sergeant or a lieutenant, or an ordinary rifleman and an ordinary soldier.
Okay.
Everybody must know where they are fitting into this big picture and what they are allowed to do and not.
All right, Kobus Marais, Democratic Alliance, a Shadow Minister for Defense and Military Veterans. Thank you so much for your time.
My absolutely pleasure in regards to you.